Welcome to On the Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Tarun Verma.
And I'm Janu Chawla.
And today we're going to review an article from the Elite Daily called Love is a Decision, Not an Accident, Why We're Going About Love All Wrong. It's a really great in-depth article. If you have time, go read it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the last two paragraphs because I feel like it summarizes the whole thing very, very well. It's rather quite tricky because although our definition of romantic love encompasses perfection, we as creatures are inherently flawed. Therefore, whenever we find ourselves in love, love itself will also be flawed. It will never reach the perfect state. That is why if we want to stay in love, we have to aim for that perfect loving relationship regardless of how many times we fail. We have to understand that the ideal love doesn't exist, but refuse to settle for anything less. As long as we understand that we don't find love, but that we create it when we always make love work. Love is a decision, not an accident. Choose to love and then refuse to let it slip away. That was a really heavy 2 paragraphs.
Definitely.
There was a lot said. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that they really nailed it in a sense, but I feel like it's sort of a balance. You need to find that person that makes you feel a certain inexplicable way, but then that, when the going gets really rough, this is when it's, love is a conscious decision. You have to cultivate it, kind of like if you water your own grass or whatever, it's grass on the other side won't be green, that kind of philosophy. But that's what I feel. I feel a lot of love is inexplicable, but then a lot of it is a rational, mature choice. I think this article is really mature for the kind of content that's sometimes available to us on the internet. And I feel like this is something that you come to realization after the age of, 27, maybe.
This kind of thinking kind of happens a lot in our generation where we are quick to fall in love, but we're just as quick to fall out of love too. So I know I have in my life fallen in love many, many times, fallen in love rather, but I've never stayed in love. And I think that's a huge testament to what they're trying to say here is that cookie cutter Disney love that they wanted to sell us, that we got hooked on, that we believe doesn't really exist. The best relationships I've had and I've seen are the ones that are rooted in this sort of rational and reasonable state. It's something very mature, something very, it's driven more by the mind than it is the heart. It's almost like the mind first falls in love, then the heart follows, because the heart is like a fickle little bitch.
Basically.
It's a basic bitch. And your mind is just so much cooler. I think that's a testament to the whole Generation Y thing we got going on. And I think that's really cool to me. What do you think about that?
Well, that's where I struggle with this article is that, yes, I'm part of that generation that was born and brought up to believe in these Disney fairy tales, these love stories, that, inexplicable feeling that you get when you're with someone, and that should drive your decision and your choices in love. But I really do think that, for a majority of your, life up until maybe 27, 28, when a lot of your friends start to settle around you or settle down, and get married, and you find yourself chasing this magical thought of love, and you start to realize that, the last relationship I was in didn't work out because of these frivolous reasons. There were other relationships before that didn't work out too, and, is there a pattern here? Do I need to try to stick it out through the tough tides in a relationship and actually make a conscious decision every day to make this work? I mean, isn't that, you have people who have been married for 50, 60 years that came from arranged marriages. And you wonder, at what point, isn't their relationship just basically about making it work? Bringing yourself to that relationship every day and making a conscious decision to stay there and be in love. So you have to think that it's difficult because a lot of people don't share the challenges they go through in a relationship. So you seem to think, you see all the positives. People are like, oh, he bought me this, he got me flowers, chocolates, teddy bears, all that, thing, that fantasy that you're spoon-fed as a kid. You see all of that, but nobody tells you the big challenges they go through when they start to see that seemingly perfect person. They start to see those flaws in that person. You don't hear that side of love. So you seem to think that if there's not all these, there's not flowers and rainbows and unicorns all day long, then all right, I gotta go. This article really resonated with me in a sense because I feel like once that fades in a relationship, which can be pretty quick, in our instant gratification kind of world, you have to really work at it. There's going to be times where you don't want to be there. You want to run and you want to find the next best thing. What I really like about this relationship is that, this article, sorry, is really talking about that, it's a conscious decision. You create love with your mind and not necessarily your heart. And I found that really interesting.
No, you hit the exact point I wanted to make is that last sentence in the article. Choose to love and then refuse to let it slip away. That is sort of this big take home picture that our generation really disagreed with our parents' generation. And yet, sort of, it kind of comes full circle because you're right. What do? They made a conscious decision to say, I'm going to fucking love this person. And that's it. That's it. There is no alternative to this. That's it. I'm going to love this person. And so help me God, there better be an act of God to make me not do it. I'm going to do it. Very right. And guess what's coming around? Like, here we are. We're on Elite Daily, the voice of Generation Y. And what are they telling us? It's a decision. It's not some heartfelt bullshit that happens. There's no pheromone chemical thing that goes off in your heart going, this is it. It is a mental decision, which is why when you look at the trends out there, especially in online dating and when people get older, when you decide you want to get married, what happens? You get married. What has happened with most of our friends when they made the conscious decision to say, you know what, it is time to fucking settle down. I'm gonna settle down. Guess what? In 3 months, you will find someone. Because there are people out there. But it's when you choose to let yourself be open to that notion.
Exactly.
Boom. That is a very, very deep thing.
Exactly. It's funny, you think, first of all, I don't think the generation before us had as many options in life. We have so many more careers. There's technology enables us to just have more choices in the kind of lifestyle we have. And so I feel, because we have so many choices, we think we're so quick not to accept any sort of, less than perfect standard in our lives. We think, oh, it's average, then I don't want that because I want my life to be above average. So I think that's one key difference is that we are a generation of choices and our parents maybe didn't have that choice. So that's something to be noted. And I think that might give rise to this mentality that, oh, well, I can find another person or this. I'm not in love with you anymore because this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And it's not as frivolous. I think the older generation didn't have a choice, and therefore they made relationships work more successfully. And I think actually another thing is that you sit there on Facebook and sometimes you're feeling mopey. All your friends are getting engaged, married, and having babies, and you think that their life is better than yours. Even if they haven't married the kind of people that you would want to marry, you still feel like, wow, they had their love story come true and their fantasy world come true. How come it won't happen for me? And you realize that it comes down to a choice. Like, these people didn't, not everyone's going to meet Prince Charming, like who they thought they were going to marry at like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. The first image of this person who doesn't even exist. Not everyone marries a Prince Charming, but they marry the people who they, choose to sort of be in love with, choose to work on a relationship with, and that's what it comes down to. Like, most of what happens in life is a choice. Kind of like when you're all in college, everyone's figuring out what they want to do, what they want to major in, what kind of career they want, and it comes down to a choice. The person who chooses to be a doctor will go through far more schooling than someone who chooses to go to business school. Your lifestyle is all affected by choices from the very beginning. Maybe someone who's a doctor will have more of an income than someone who goes to business school. These type of choices affect you, and I think that this emphasizes that love and relationships kind of need to be managed just like you manage your career, in a sense. You make the smart choices, you look at yourself and you say, I choose to, stick in this relationship because I want a long marriage. I want kids. I want a enduring relationship, true companionship. You prioritize these things and you make choices. And I feel like people are so good at micromanaging so many different parts of their lives. But when it comes to love, they're just kind of like, oh, my heart's supposed to lead here. My brain should take a backseat.
And that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wrong. You need to be proactive about it.
Exactly.
People don't get it. They're like, well, it's just going to happen when it happens. Yeah, you're not going to fall in love walking down the street, going to get your mail. It doesn't happen. You have to actively, just like you said, if you want a job, you go look for it.
Exactly.
Right? You want shoes, you go find them, you shop around. It's just like any other thing. And I think that's the one thing we've been spoon fed that we can't get away from is we're led to believe that finding love isn't like finding your next pair of shoes or your car or your home. You do
Exactly.
just as much research, you put time, you put energy into it, and then you go get this thing. Actually, it's not shoes, it's more like a house. You really spend a good deal of time researching it. And most people don't do it. They're like, well, it'll happen when it happens. It's like, no, it really doesn't. And you hit it on the mark with this one. That's so right. The thing I want to emphasize beyond what you said, because I can't make that statement any more better than it was it just kind of goes to reiterate there really isn't that one person for you then.
Hmm.
If you think about what you've just said, how you said it, it doesn't lend itself to this whole soulmate policy of like there's this one person out there for me. Because throughout life, I know that I have messed up relationships with some really great girls that when I go back and I think about it and I go, you know what? I wasn't ready then. That's why that didn't work out. Not that the girl wasn't. Today's day and age, that girl is probably going to be amazing. If only she would talk to me again. Then it would be amazing and I could probably marry that girl, right? So that's the huge thing about it is it has to a lot of it has to do with timing. I think where the universe plays its magical card is that when you're ready, it puts you in line to meet that person,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to do your legwork. It's not just gonna happen. God isn't gonna throw Mrs. USA in my lap if that's what I want and I'm ready to love her. It's not gonna happen. You still have to do your legwork for it. But I think the universe just kind of puts itself in line for it to happen. And I think that's the extent of the magic. That's it. That right there is it.
I think that I agree with that. I agree with the fact that you kind of have to realize that yeah, there could have actually been maybe 3 or 4 people that you could have ended up with,
Yeah.
and you could have had an equally satisfying relationship with all 3 or 4. But I think where you kind of have to let go of your brain is when you're in a loving, enduring relationship with someone and you have all these challenges being thrown at you, whether it's long distance, it's family drama, it's friends drama, it's career setbacks. That person that's willing to face those problems with you head on and isn't shutting the door in your face when you need them the most, or when you find a person that does that, I think that's where you kind of, in this, if we're going with this philosophy, you have to kind of turn your brain off and realize that this person is the one because they are the only person that is sticking it out with you like this, that is a true companion and is facing everything life is throwing at you. That's where I think this article really kind of hits the nail on the head, in the sense that it kind of dispels the fact that you grow up thinking there's that one person, your soulmate, that you're meant to be with. If God forbid you're with, you're married to someone and something happens to them and they pass away or there's a tragedy, are you supposed to say, well, that's it? I lost my chance at the only true love, and then the next person I marry will be, number two? I mean, I think you can have more than one great love in your life. It's about that person that makes that commitment with you, makes them the one at that time, or for your life at that time. And I think that's where you have to kind of turn your brain off and just revel in the fact that, oh my gosh, this person is the one for me because look at how hard they work with me and how much they want to work on the relationship with me. That's the tough part. I mean, it's okay to say, oh, the one that got away, I could have been with this guy or this girl. Well, that's fine, but the one that you're with right now is the one that's toughing it out with you.
Oh yeah, no, I never
That's
said that when you made the choice to love, you should look back and regret. I mean, no. Like I said, I do believe that you can definitely have several loves in your life, but the one you choose to make that decision with, the decision of 2014, right, or whatever, you should never look back. I think no matter what, you should never look back with the regrets and be like, this person should have been this person should have been that. I think that's always the wrong answer. But you're right, when it comes to when you make the decision, you don't look back. You move forward and you make it work hand in hand through all the problems. And if it's not, if you're not able to do it, then guess what? That person just wasn't it. You move on. Bottom line.
exactly. At the end of the day, if you're looking around and everyone around you is having great relationships, or getting engaged, getting married, don't. I think it's really wrong for us to project our insecurities on those people and think, oh, well, they must have found Prince Charming. I don't have anyone. I'm single. I think everyone has to realize, like, when you're at a wedding or you're at an engagement party, or someone's having babies, I tend to kind of slip into this thought process when those three things are happening to my friends is, wow, this just, all of this is happening because two people at some level made a conscious decision to keep on going with this relationship. You know, now they have children, they have a baby, they have a legacy to leave behind. Why? Because two people came together, they were initially attracted to each other, but that there came that one point where they wanted to just rip their hair out and be like, oh my god, this person's so annoying. But they kept making the decision to stay in love. And it's really, when you look at that, I have a friend of mine who just had a baby 3 months ago, and I've known her since I was in elementary school. To see her with her child, and with her husband, and it's like, wow, all of this came down to two adults deciding that we're going to choose love over quitting, and we're going to give this the best shot we can. Now they have a family. And I think you have to just remind yourself, when you see things around you that you don't have, just remember it comes down to choices and a decision.
Like you said, like anything else in life, it's a timing thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you are ready to be in love, you will be in love. It's
Exactly.
not just going to happen. You're going to make a decision to. Kind of like when you want to get serious about your job, you will, and you'll see advancements in it. If you choose to want to dick around at work, guess what? Same thing. You want to choose to dick around in the love area? So be it. Same results. I think that's a really big takeaway that our generation does not seem to want to understand. Our parents' generation was this whole pull up our sleeves, get in the mud, and make shit happen, whether it was career-wise, love-wise. I mean, I know my dad puts blood, sweat, and tears into getting me through school, teaching me. Do I have that kind of resolve? Do I even have that kind of intellect to teach my kids through okay, I think I could get them through algebra, but geometry and pre-cal, oh fuck that, I couldn't do that, right? But same thing, just like anything else in life. And I think that's what our generation fails to see. They think it's this magical thing. It's not. It's another thing on the list of life that you roll up your sleeves and you get your goddamn work done.
Exactly.
Boom. Loved it. Deep ass podcast. Ooh, I hope you guys took away something, because our minds are blown. We'll see you next time on the Couch Podcast.
See ya!